Jeremy, Mr. Blake. Move on for 2 minutes after the meeting. Yeah. About your email. Yeah.
Jeremy, got no attention. Ready to go? Got no attention.
Let's call this meeting of your Newark City Council to order. Janine, please call the roll.
Mr. Marmy?
Present.
Mr. Roth?
Here.
Mr. Barker?
Here.
Mr. Blake?
Here.
Mr. Bub?
Here.
Mr. Cannell?
Here.
Ms. Hall? Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Labutus?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
We have 8 here and 1 present this evening. Next, we have the invitation. Mr. Blake,
Thank you, Mr. President.
please stand.
Tonight, members of council, we have Eric Miller with us tonight. Podium. Mr. Miller's from the Second Church of Christ, and I remember spending some time outside this church and passing out some bag lunch meals to some residents. And so he does a lot of church. We're thankful for the work that he does over. His church is on the corner of Main Street and Williams, and we just really appreciate everything he does with his congregation and community over there, and welcome him tonight to give a prayer for our city. So thank you so much. Let's pray.
Lord, I do thank you for this time that we're gathered together here tonight. Lord, I thank you for the lady and the men gathered around this table. Lord, I thank you for the work that they do to serve our city. Lord, I thank you for all that have come to witness what goes on tonight, Lord, to bring topics up. Lord, we just pray that as we discuss, that everything that we discuss tonight, or everything that is discussed, is to build a better Newark. And Lord, I thank you for this blessings, every blessing we receive from you each and every day. But Lord, I pray it's almost time for school to start. Lord, I lift up our school children of all ages. Lord, I pray that you would watch over them. I pray that you would keep them safe throughout this school year that is about to begin. Lord, I lift up our school teachers. Lord, I lift up the administration, everyone that is involved in our school system. I just pray that you would protect them and our children would learn and grow each and every day. Or I lift up those young people that are involved in extracurricular activities. Lord, I just left Evans facility and boys and girls out playing football and practicing and track and soccer. Lord, I pray that you would protect them and keep them safe and from injury as they perform in their extracurricular activities. Lord, I lift up our men and women that serve in our police force and the women and men that serve in our fire departments. Lord, I pray that you would bring them safety, protect them as they protect us. And Lord, we just thank you that you love us. I thank you that we can bring our prayers to you, that you hear our prayers and that you answer. And Lord, I pray that Newark would just continue to grow and be a city that other cities look at and say, we want to model after the city of Newark, because the people in Newark love, and they may disagree, but they love each other and serve each other and look out for each other, Lord. And we thank you. And just as I talk about loving, Jesus Christ taught us how to love. Your son, Jesus, taught us how to love. And I pray that we would do that each and every day. And again, Lord, I thank you. And I pray all these things in your son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Miller. While you're standing, if you please join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda, we have caucus. That's a equal time for council to discuss anything pertaining to the agenda tonight. Do we have anything, Mr. Marmy?
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to excuse Ms. Hall.
Excuse Ms. Hall, second by Mr. Blake. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do we have anything else?
Mr. President, yes, I will need to abstain this evening from 21:20.
Mr. Barker will be abstaining from 21. Thank you. Do we have anything else? Okay. Next, we have the minutes of our July 19th, 2021 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those? Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Barker. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That passes. We have no appointments this evening. We have 2 reports from standing committees, one from finance, one from capital improvements. Without objection, those will be received and filed. We have no reports from city officials this evening. We have 1 communication from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, a transfer application for Quick and Cold 21 to DBA Quick and Cold 998 North 21st Street, liquor transfer. Without objection, that'll be received and filed. There are 2 public hearings tonight. The first one, Janine, if you read the public hearing, we're going to open the public hearing.
Ordinance number 21-10 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Harris, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Marmy, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 774 Hudson Avenue, City of Newark, Lisbon County, Ohio, from that of LB Limited Intensity Business District to MB Medium Intensity Business District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
The Planning Commission has recommended denying passage of this. So to pass this, it would take 7 votes to approve. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against just this particular item? Anyone like to speak for or against this zoning on 774 Hudson? One more time, anyone like to speak for or against? We're going to go ahead and close this public hearing. Janine, please read 2110 for the second time.
Ordinance number 21-10 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Harris, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Marmy, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as 774 Hudson Avenue, City of Newark, Lisbon County, Ohio, from that of LB Limited Intensity Business District to MB Medium Intensity Business District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
Heard the second reading of 21-10. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath,
make a motion to adopt 21-10.
motion to adopt by Mr. Rath,
Second.
second by Mr. Marmy. Is there any discussion on 2110?
Mr.
Mr.
President,
Rath,
seeing how the planning commission has recommended we decline this, and there's nobody here to speak in favor of it, I will be voting to decline it as well. Encourage the rest of the council members to decline it as well.
thank you, Mr. Rath. Anyone else? Janine, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Marmy,
No.
Mr. Rath,
No,
Mr. Barker,
No.
Mr. Blake.
No.
Mr. Bub.
No.
Mr. Fennell,
No.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
No.
Mr. Labutus.
No.
Mr. Lang.
2110 fails 9-0. And we have 1 more public hearing this evening. We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Janine, would you read 21-20?
Ordinance number 21-20 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Marmy, an ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as multiple parcels located on West Main Street, City of Newark, Lisbon County, Ohio, from that of GC General Commercial, LC Limited Commercial, LI Limited Industrial, and RH Single Family Residence High Density Districts to DC Downtown Zoning District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
Again, we've opened this public hearing, and this is a chance for you to discuss just this issue on the public hearing. The Planning Commission has recommended passage and approval of ordinance 2120. Anyone here like to speak for or against? Ma'am, if you just come up and give us your name and address for the record, and then have that.
Hello, I'm Alice Lees, and I own the property 181 Jefferson Street, and I've lived there for more than 20 years. It's right directly across from whatever that is. And I would just like to know, how would Mr. Anderson like it if we put Legend Valley across from his house? We've got kids, we've got grandkids. They don't even play music on weekends. They play it every night of the week. And the lights are on all the time. I don't think it's fair for all the property owners to have to put up with all the loud music and the lights. I just had one more question. Is Mr. Anderson, is he going to reside there? Or the property owners that live there just have to put up with whatever they have to put up with? It's loud music. Like I said, if it was just weekends, it'd be one thing. It's every night of the week. And our neighborhood is, or used to be, was family oriented. And I just hope this council will respect all of us and take everything into consideration. All the property owners that live on Jefferson Street. I mean, I think that's only fair. I've lived there 20 years, me and my husband have. And thank you. That's all I wanted to say. It's It's changed the whole neighborhood. We don't live in Columbus and we don't want it to be Columbus. That's a quiet little neighborhood. And they turned it into something else. So that's all I had to say, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak for or against? Ma'am? Same thing, just give us your name and address for the record.
Rochelle Bolden Smith, 237 Violet Court. I can't see how we can proceed on this when we haven't continued on the working on the noise ordinance, which is very relevant. As far as I can see, we have not continued on that very important issue, which affects the entire city. That's pretty much, I think the community has some rights here too.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Anyone else like to speak for or against? This is your chance before we're going to vote after this. So if you'd like to speak, now's the time. Anyone else like to speak for or against? One more time. Anyone for or against? Okay, we're going to close this public hearing. Janine, if you'd read 2120.
Ordinance number 21-20 by Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Marmy. An ordinance changing the zoning classification of certain real property generally described as multiple parcels located on West Main Street, City of Newark, Licking County, Ohio, from that of GC General Commercial, LC Limited Commercial, LI Limited Industrial, and R8 Single Family Residence High Density Districts to DC Downtown Zoning District, zoning code of the City of Newark, Ohio.
You've heard the second reading of 21-20. What is your wish?
Mr. President,
Mr. Rath.
make a motion to adopt 21-20.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Rath. Second. Second by Mr. Buzz. Is there any discussion on 21-20? Mr. Blake?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to express that with the sentiments of the residents that do live on Jefferson Street. I had an opportunity to meet several of the residents. Even before the planning commission meeting, I had a chance to walk down the street and talk to several of the residents that live down there. And the chief concern is the noise. I think everyone is in agreement of wanting progress in the city and wanting to see momentum, but just the noise levels and the location of the stage and those concerns are very valid. So I'm hoping that we can, I think at the planning commission meeting, Director Rhodes even mentioned bringing up the noise ordinance, and we need to have some discussions about that. So I do agree that that's most definitely the chief concern about the Newark station is just the relationship between the development and the residents on Jefferson Street. So if we can continue to work on that and to make some mutual beneficial benefits, then that would be very positive. But I do plan to support this because I think the development is important for our city, and I applaud those that did work on this to bring this forward. But the chief concern is the noise. So with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Anyone else? Mr. Marmy?
Thank you, Mr. President. I too, I understand concerns about the noise, and I anticipate there's going to be some progress, hopefully, in that, and the fact that attention has been drawn to it. This zoning change would not change that noise, the bands being able to be there anyway. I'm in support of this change, but I also am in support of making sure that we do things to try to assist in making sure that that neighborhood is protected by, loud bands or anything along those lines. And I think, the noise ordinance is a direction to go to making sure that that could be helpful. But I am also in support of this, and because it does not have an impact on whether or not a band can play there by changing the zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else like to speak for the first time before I let Mr. Rath speak again? Mr. Rath. Oh, you haven't spoken. I'm sorry. That was Mr. Blake. Never mind. Mr. Rath.
I'm also going to support this as well. Like Mr. Marmy said, what we're passing here is not going to affect his ability to have bands or live music there. As far as the noise ordinance goes, there is work being done on that. There is progress being done on that. And you will see progress on that in the future.
Sir, is that every night? of the week?
No.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Rath.
So the noise ordinance will come forward as being worked on it in a very near future. And it will also address cell phones and public meetings.
I'm sorry, I turned it off.
But I am supporting this. So, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rath. Anyone else? Denise, please call the roll vote.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Abstain?
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Mr. Bub,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
21-20 passes 8 yes and 1 abstention. Next on the agenda is comments from citizens. That is your time to be heard. This is not a debate with council or a question and answer period. This is just your opportunity to make a statement. Is there anyone who would like to speak? If you please raise your hand, we'll go right down the list here. We'll start with you, ma'am.
Linda Mossholder, 224 Green Meadow Drive in Newark. First of all, I would like to thank Chief McGee for coming to the South Newark Civic Association picnic on Saturday. He spoke to the residents there and addressed all of their questions. I was especially appreciative of his desire to become involved in the community. And he said that that was one of his #1 priorities, and that was something that was very good to hear. So I wanted to thank him and make sure that he got the compliment he deserves. I've also found out that we were talking about, I live on Green Meadow, and we were talking about when he was a K-9 officer, he actually only lived 2 houses down from where I remember the dog, but I don't necessarily remember him. So, but it was really nice to have him there. I would also like to, and I know this is not a question and answer period, but I read today that there are still monies available for rental assistance. I want to make sure that is clarified. We're seeing more people who are receiving eviction notices now because the moratorium is over. And we just want to make sure that there's every opportunity available for them to be able to pay back rent and not have to go through the eviction process. So I would like to, make sure that that money is available. It's on the city webpage, but it is not on any other information portal, like it's not available on 211 if somebody would try to find out if rental assistance is available. So just making sure that maybe the public is aware of that would be helpful. The other topic, and it's one that I kind of brought up before, is making sure that there is some community input on use of the Rescue Act funds. I remember at the last meeting, Mayor, that you said you were entertaining suggestions. Are those suggestions coming from community members or just council members? I just would like to know how we get our suggestions to you and then to the council for approval. It appears that the city of Newark will receive somewhere around $18 million, probably 9 million, just, I broke into 2 different parts. And the preliminary, guidelines are already available. So I'm sure that some of those areas have been discussed. The final guidelines as of 4 o'clock today were not available, at least I could not find them. So as soon as those are available, it would be helpful to have some clarification on how to apply for those funds. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir.
Mr. President, Dave Patterson, 61 West Main Street. So my wife Karen and I own the house at 6163 West Main Street. Many of the old timers in this town remember it as the McGonigal Funeral Home. I sent an email to Mr. Blake earlier today expressing my concern. He suggested maybe I come tonight, so thank you for having me. This house was built in 1850, and we believe it is one of the oldest houses left in town. We've spent in the last several years tens of thousands of dollars on renovation, preservation of this beautiful house. But more than just an old home, it's got kind of a historic aspect to it. It was built by Matthew Newkirk, who established the first banking system in Newark. He was the grand poobah of the International Order of Odd Fellows. He was one of the founding members of the Second Presbyterian Church, and he ran Newkirk Dry Goods, which is where Earthwork Sound Studio is at now. He ran that for years. So he was kind of where you are back in his day. In the last several years, we've rented the house out as a quilt retreat known as the Newark Guest House. We wanted to kind of honor him. And believe it or not, quilt retreats are a popular thing. We probably average about 600 bed nights per year. These are people that come to Newark from around the state and some from outside of the state. We provide them a wonderful place to stay, as well as a list of the local restaurants, shops, events, all of that stuff. The ladies love coming here, they bring their wallets and they experience our town. And I'm not going to be the first one to tell you this, but crime and homelessness is an issue. This year alone, we've had multiple guest cars' windows smashed and broken into, countless homeless people encamping themselves behind our air conditioning units. Believe it or not, a naked woman in broad daylight vandalizing another air conditioning unit. And just Saturday night, we had a guy that turned over one of our AC units. He threw 2 bricks through the window, snatched 2 pillows off one of the beds by reaching through the broken glass. And all of this while our guests were there. When the police arrived, he was still hanging around with our pillows because he was setting up camp. The officer told us that he was a regular. He asked us if we wanted to press charges, but really, what's the point? So if he's a regular, do I want him holding a grudge against me when he gets back out? So needless to say, the ladies that were there gathered their things and they left, and we were just going to eat the cost of the weekend. Every day I come to work, I hold my breath at what I'm going to find. Sleeping bags by the AC units, my trash can stolen, trash and cigarette butts on my front porch. The police station's right down our alley. It's visible from our parking lot. We've been there on many occasions, begging them to cruise through the alley, make their presence known when they go by the property. You know, I know they can't be everywhere all the time, but it's not even out of their way to get to their parking lot by going through my parking lot. But it doesn't happen. So we're, also members of the DNA. We've made them aware of the problem. We paid the extra money that Fred Ernest put together that we thought was going to go towards additional police presence. We've been community minded. We're committed to the town. We give to Midland, 31 West Church, or whatever cause is going to build the town, we'll give to it. But now we're at a crossroads. We've spent so much time and energy and money on providing an attraction that brings business to all of Newark's local establishments. But we no longer can in good conscience bring little old ladies to this town when they have to fear for their belongings or their safety. We've canceled all of our future bookings, and there were a lot of them, and we moved them to our other establishment, which is in Millersburg, Ohio, Holmes County. That's money this town's not going to see. And then currently, we've closed the Newark Guest House for business. And what you know now, would you want your mom staying the night there? Really, and it saddens me. This is my hometown, and I really want to bring the money here, but that has come to a screeching halt. The tax dollars that were generated, the patronage of Newark is going to go somewhere else. We consider ourselves the current caretakers of the property, and we're considering investing in added security, monitoring systems, all of this stuff. But is that going to be in vain? What are we going to do about the problem to keep the regulars from destroying what we're trying to build? So we are unsure at this time if we are ever going to reopen the Newark Guest House, and I think that's a loss for it. So, questions or?
Thank you, Mr. Harris. We appreciate that. The safety director's here tonight, so I'm sure he's taken note of your conversation here, and maybe he can talk with you. You put your hand up, Mr. Safety Director. Maybe you guys could chat and outside after the meeting. Everett? You wait. Anyone else like to speak during this section? There's one more after the legislation, ma'am.
I will.
Anyone else? Okay.
My name's Tammy Evans. I live at 213 South 4th, which is on the corner of 4th and National. Like him, I'm a new homeowner. We just paid our house off last year. We're in the middle of the construction. We're exactly where they started their construction down 4th Street. I've had my truck broken into and $1,000 worth of tools taken out of it. I've had my property, somebody came onto my property and stole the statue out of my property. I'm fed up. I've called the police, they don't come. There's not enough officers. They told me that there's not enough officers and they can't hire anybody because nobody wants to be a cop in Newark because we're being zoned in as Columbus. I was raised in Columbus. I was born here, but I was raised in Columbus. We are not Columbus. And it makes me mad that he told me we're being treated as if we're part of Columbus. Why? What are you guys doing that we can't hire police officers in this town? Why do we have to, as he said, regulars? I live right by Circle K. So their regulars are there constantly, 24 hours a day. An officer told me at a meeting that I had with Jeremy Blake that they have regulars. They take them to the jail. They arrest them for vandalizing. They call and pretend they're sick and the jail releases them right away. You're not teaching them anything. They're not getting punished for anything. If they're going to the jail and they think they're sick, take their butts down to the hospital, do a COVID test, they don't got COVID, send them back to jail. Why should we as homeowners have to pay the price? I am tired of not having police presence. For the last year and a half, I have had nothing but bad traffic up and down a closed road. Do I call officers? I ask them to come. I called when they were breaking into the construction equipment. It took 2 hours to get an officer there because I had to call Heath. And the officers in Heath can't figure out where 4th and National is. It took 2 hours to get somebody there to get the guy that was stealing from the construction crew. I've had homeless people, a woman that is, the police told me she has mental issues, drug issues, and alcohol issues, who wanders around talking to a desk chair in front of my house in 90-some degree weather. Okay, that's weird, but it's not bothering anybody until she decided to get on my 80-some-year-old neighbor's porch at nighttime and stand up on her porch. I'm very protective of my neighbors. That's not going to happen. And I had to chase her off. I called for an officer. It took a while, but they came and they started giving me a name. And I'm like, I don't know who she is. She just appeared in the neighborhood. I've never seen her before. She also tried to get in the construction crew's truck and they had to chase her off. I begged the police to come and to set up browsers across the street from my house. You pay for every new road you want in the city, just writing tickets on National Drive right now, especially since they opened it. 4th Street is closed, but National's wide open with one stop sign that half the people don't even stop for. Because for a year, the road's been closed, but they've been driving through it as if they own it. I'm tired of it. I'm fed up with it. I'm sick of, my husband lost his mother a year ago. He has put his entire inheritance money on our property trying to fix it up to match what the city water department is doing in our neighborhood. Why? So I can watch it be destroyed by homeless who refuse to work, who just flat out don't want to work. And now I have a place called The Vertical around the corner from me who feeds them and lets them bathe and stuff. Why? Get them a job, get them on the road, get them out of my neighborhood. They're riding bicycles around my neighborhood in packs. They're riding motorized bicycles around my neighborhood all hours of the day and night. And them things are noisy. I've got traffic from all over the city coming up and down National Drive that thinks it's National Trail Raceway. Let's go hit it at 100 miles an hour. I can't have my grandkids in my yard. I have to put them in the privacy fence in the backyard because I fear somebody's going to pop the corner and take out my house or my kids in my front yard. I'm fed up with it. I haven't seen anything. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not hearing anything from anybody that there's a solution. I just wanted to come up here and say my piece, I guess, because I'm getting fed up, because I'm not getting answers. It's a year and a half later and I'm still on a construction site that was supposed to have been done to begin at the end of the year. Now we're talking December. I'm still sitting there with no lights. I finally complained enough that I got a temporary street light on my corner. I could not see my neighbor's house across the street for the last year because it's been so dark on my corner. They finally put a temporary light up. As far as temporary stop signs, we thought we were gonna get those. We haven't gotten those. There was barriers on the house across the street from me on National. They took them down for construction, and it was said in the beginning, anything they remove, they will replace. Well, the safety director says they don't see a reason for it to be there. I watched that house almost get hit in 30 years twice. And their response is he needs to move his gas meter to the side of his house. Well, that's not gonna stop somebody from hitting black ice and plowing into his house, is it? What, who's in charge of any of this? Can any of you answer that?
We're not gonna answer. Are you done?
Okay, yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Young man.
Hi, my name's Brad Canwell, and I'm actually from Fredonia, but I work in Newark. And just what the follow-up was there says, I'd like to be part of the solution. I feel like the middle of the hours, like late night, is prime time for all these activities. And I feel like drugs are real bad. I'm trying to focus on Licking County, not just Newark, but Licking County as a whole. I want people to come here for fun, I want people to come from out of town, like Cedar Point and Kingstown. We got the Buckeyes 45 minutes from here. People come from all over the place to come to this state. I want them to come to Newark. I want Newark to be like the funnest place on the planet. And I'm trying to focus on 40 and under. Over 40, I figure you guys already got it figured out. You got wives and families and fences and dogs. But under 40, you have no structure, no discipline, no goals, ambition, none of it. So I'd like to focus on 40 and under. And then just like bike parks and skate parks and all the things that, because it seems like if you're past 10 years old, there's nothing to do. What do you do after you get done with the park? You go to sleep, you go to the after party, you get a DUI because you're drunk, or you go to bed, right? But there's only a few things that you could possibly do at 2:30 in the morning. And for some reason, I don't know why, but everybody under 40 wants to be up at 3, 4 in the morning. I don't know why. It's a crazy time. It's normal people go to sleep, So I feel like if we get some flashlights out of the parks where these homeless people are and the drug slingers or whatever, I want to volunteer my time and be one of the ones, be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So I don't know anything about anything. I'm a young kid, and I figured coming here tonight would help me get the next step. Like I went to explore Licking County. I was literally running around all day earlier. It was weird because the works is closed today. The Sky Dome's closed. Like it's just weird. It's Monday, everything should be open. I'll go to the works tomorrow. I feel like they're really good with kids, they help out the community. And I'd like to do it. I have all the energy, I have all the time, I have everything that everybody wants. So I want to just put it towards good, positive things. I was hoping you guys could help me off record or however. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you tell us your name?
Brad Campbell, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be brief. Do you have a chance for one?
I take it. Do we have anyone else?
I'll just be.
Good.
So I'll be to the point.
Name and address.
Okay, name is Ken Blaney. The business address is Rice Street, all of Rice Street. And the home address is 1407 Misty Glen. We're in a position to own all of Rice Street here soon. And we're in a position to tear down 5 houses within maybe 6 months. Possibly less than a year. And we're in a position to tear down 10 houses within next year. So before we do that, we need to come to your committee and see, what is it, planning commission? So, and then before we tear down all those houses and before we release all the mortgage releases. So I'm in a position right now where I'd like to be on the agenda for the next meeting. And that way we could put anything that's within property maintenance behind us and just tear down the structures. But if you could get us on the next agenda, I would appreciate it. So that's all I have.
If you would email Janine, she will give you the
We'll
information.
get on the next thing. Thank you very much. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to partnering with Mark.
Okay,
Thanks.
Okay. Then there's one other section for citizens' comments after the legislation, which really won't be long this evening. We have no ordinances on the second reading, no ordinances on the first reading, no resolutions on the second reading. We move to resolutions on the first reading, 21-42.
Resolution number 21-42 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Lang, Mr. Barker, Mr. Harris, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Labutus, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
21 Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 21-42.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a payout for a termination that we always expedite to get the funds to the individual. Also, we have some transfers that need to be made in order to pay some bills and make sure that projects are moving forward. So we need to expedite those also.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll, waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Mr. Bub,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 21-42.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Is there any other discussion on 21-42? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll, vote.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Mr. Bub,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
21-42 passes 9-0. Next on the first reading, we have 21-43.
Resolution number 21-43 by Mr. Lang, Mr. Barker, Mr. Harris, Mr. Rath, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Marmy, a resolution appropriating monies for current expenses of the municipal corporation.
21-43 will be held for 2 weeks until our next meeting on the 16th. And finally, we have 21-44.
Resolution number 21-44 expedite by Mr. Marmy, Mr. Lang, Mr. Barker, Mr. Harris, Mr. Rath, and Mr. Labutus, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor of the city of Newark to prepare and submit applications to the United States Bureau of Justice Assistance for fiscal year 2021 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant Funding.
21-44, Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to waive the 2-day reading rule on resolution 21-44.
Motion to waive the 2-day reading rule by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. This needs to be expedited in order to meet a deadline to apply for this grant, so asking for it to be expedited.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Janine, please call the roll, waive the 2-day reading rule.
Mr. Marmy,
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Mr. Bub,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
2-day reading rule has been waived. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Make a motion to adopt resolution 21-44.
Motion to adopt by Mr. Marmy, second by Mr. Lang. Is there any other discussion on 21-44 before we vote? Seeing none, Janine, please call the roll to vote.
Mr. Marmy.
Yes.
Mr. Rath,
Yes.
Mr. Barker.
Yes.
Mr. Blake,
Yes.
Mr. Bub,
Yes.
Mr. Pennell,
Yes.
Ms. Hall, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Labutus.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Yes.
And 21-44 passes 9-0. And that concludes our legislation this evening. Thank you for your attention. Next on the agenda, we have one more opportunity for comments from citizens. Again, the same rules apply. This is not a debate with council or question and answer period. This is your chance to be heard. Do we have anyone that would like to speak? If you put your hand up, we'll call you up in order. Mr. Crawford?
Dana Crawford, 163 South Second Street. I promise I don't always plan on speaking every time I come in. It just pops up. Number one.
Can I have that in writing, Mr. Crawford?
I'll be sure to forward that to you in an email. But number one, I keep forgetting to bring this up. With previous, city council meetings on the minutes or on the agenda rather, we've always had like in parentheses, like sort of like a summary as to what is being voted upon with the spending measures. My friend David Green, who of course moved to Pennsylvania, he had brought it up at one point in time, and then they came back. So hopefully we can bring that back. Just makes it easier for people, so that way they don't have to bounce back and forth between reading committee minutes and council minutes. Secondly, as an advocate for homeless people, I've mentioned before that when I was younger, I've been homeless at least a couple of times that I can remember, and I know, like, for sure that homelessness, unfortunately, because of desperate times calls for desperate measures, as people say, as that old saying goes. So a lot of people who are homeless do sadly turn to criminal activity, and you can't deny it. Even us homeless advocates, you can't deny that crimes happen. They need to be addressed. So everyone who's a property owner, who sees these things happening, I mean, their concerns need to be addressed too. At the same time, I get sad when I see us in this trend towards, not saying this is the case here, but a lot of people out there like to demonize homeless people, like they're all, criminals, or that they're all homeless because they're lazy, all homeless because they turn to drugs, or they all have mental issues. All these things contribute some way to homelessness. I mean, someone ends up homeless for a whole variety of reasons. And I've mentioned before in the past that the homeless people, while some of them are absolutely part of the criminal element, sadly, they're also still people at the end of the day who are also, because they're here, technically still citizens. And every one of them still deserves to be recognized as being a dignified human being who just came upon hard times. And now, of course, with the moratorium having ended, millions more can end up being homeless. I think right now the numbers are like 500,000 somewhere in that area. And it's tragic to know that there's so many citizens, for one reason or another, who sees homeless people as being more of a problem as opposed to being victims of a problem that we're not dealing with. And yes, there are people who definitely don't help themselves. There are definitely people out there who let themselves enter that, but I still don't think that we should let the few who are problematic poison the well, if you will, for everyone else. So with that, I'll pass.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Beth, anyone else like to speak this last section? Anyone else?
Hey, my name is Beth Line, 33 Summit Street. I'm here in proxy for a gentleman who wanted to attend, a Jefferson Street resident. He wasn't able to attend at the last minute. He does indeed have questions about the sound, but he sees it more as an accommodation issue, as best as I can relate his position. This is more of a temporary issue in his understanding of the long-term goals of Newark Station. And so he is wondering, as I'm reading, that if there may be an accommodation in the meantime. Just an accommodation until the building process transitions. And there's, like I said, many of the residents, they're happy for the opportunity that Newark stations are bringing. I mean, this is something that, we haven't had in that portion of town before. And it is going to be amazing. And Mr. Alexander was very kind of him to do what he's doing. But so we're asking just for that accommodation until the seasons transition, until schools, people are settled in. And they're also wondering about the cleanup process. They're seeing a lot of things happening, and they're aware that toxins run the building. And we discussed that Mr. Alexander, he's taking responsibility for that cleanup. And but still, though, they want to be assured that everything is in process for their benefit, that the open windows that they're saying the dust coming out of the windows is not contaminated nor harmful to them. And so now, concerning what is happening in our communities, this has gone on for a long time. This has gone on for a while. It's just getting to the point that it's touching and it's starting to snowball. It's touching more and more people. It's been hurting us, all of us in that portion of the town, or I'm going to say a low percentage for some time. And Mr. Blake has made reference to the opportunity of a social worker. It is not the time for a social worker. And the money raised in the paycheck for that social worker would pay an officer's salary handsomely. And there are many services available, many services. Many of the nonprofits that I work with, we have free services. We do not stigmatize anyone, but there is an opportunity, but there's always a choice. I have a choice whether or not to run a stop sign, whether or not I'm late. Would it benefit me? Yeah, sometimes yes, but there's still a choice. And my behavior will affect someone else. There's a choice. And so as well as coming with that social worker, what process, there has to be transparency as to what core is being taught through that social worker. Are they saying, are you teaching victimization? Are they teaching oppression? Or are they teaching responsibility and opportunities to grow? Because it will affect everyone. Because it may well land in South Newark. So I'm just wondering if those donors, which is, I see their hearts, do they know what will be taught? Do they know what the values are? Do they know what the processes are involved in the goals of this? Or would they rather support hiring another police officer, $85,000? That's decent. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Brad Campbell again, 6621 North Street, South Granville. But I feel like the solution could be, we have a lot of abandoned corporate buildings like the Basket, and Cherry Valley's empty. I feel like we could utilize these, get some psychiatrists, get some therapy, get some chaplains, get some help, give them a hand up instead of a handout. Make them earn it. I feel like if we do that with the homeless or with the drugs or with the less fortunate, if you will, just the young kids that are in trouble too. I mean, whoever, anybody that needs help, we should be able to help them. However we have to help them. I feel like we could utilize these giant buildings for good instead of for just nothing. There's nothing in them. Let's utilize those giant buildings. And the Basket is a tourist attraction. Let's utilize that. Let's put some blown glass and some skills in there, sewing, knitting, all these things that people know how to do that can teach our youth or teach our less fortunate people. We can do this. I think we have to work as a team. We can't. I'm only one person. I need your guys' help. So any way you guys can help me, help you, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I missed anybody's hand? Any city officials this evening? Mr. Mark?
Good evening, everyone. Mark Motter, Community and Economic Development Director with the City of Newark. I just wanted to address the issue that Linda brought up earlier tonight about the eviction moratorium being expired as of July 31st. Community Development Department is very well aware of this, as are our city partners. And by that, I mean the nonprofits. Our department has worked very, very closely with Debbie Takemeyer and Licking County Coalition for Housing, with Leads and Jobs and Family Services throughout this entire COVID event, because we all receive funding to help primarily with rental and mortgage assistance. The city made a commitment to devote the majority of our community development block grant coronavirus funds to rental and mortgage assistance. We still have plenty of funds to help people. I want to make that abundantly clear. And we are continuing to work with these other nonprofit organizations. We think we've done a pretty good job of putting the word out that this is how you contact us. And again, that's working with Coalition for Housing, Leads, Jobs and Family Services, the places that people are primarily going to go if they need this type of assistance. And again, we've met probably on a weekly basis throughout this last year and a half, so that we are sure we are doing a good job of coordinating with each other and making sure that we didn't have people slipping through the cracks. That money is from the federal government, and its purpose was to help people not to go homeless and to be able to stay and keep a roof over their head. And that has been our primary objective throughout all this. What I want to make abundantly clear too, though, is the Department of Housing and Urban Development that our CDBG COVID funds come from makes it crystal clear that in order to receive the recipient of these funds, you have to prove that your loss of income, which didn't allow you to make that rental payment or that mortgage payment, was a direct result of COVID. Period. You got to be able to prove that. So as long as that can happen, the applicants are coming to us, we have funds. We have plenty of funds to help people for the city of Newark. Again, our funds are for city of Newark residents. So council is crystal clear. We've done, I think, an outstanding job of coordinating with all the other nonprofits in the community. We're working diligently and very hard to make sure the money gets to those people who need it, but they have to be able to show proof that it was a result of COVID. If they can do that, we're there to help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Motter. Any other city officials? Honorable Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. All pass.
Thank you, Director Sassen. Mayor Hall.
Mr. President, thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming in and sharing their concerns this evening. I will be up here afterwards signing legislation. If anybody wants to talk with me, I'm certainly available. And my team and directors and everyone do listen at council night. I want you to understand that. And we work very hard. You brought some situations that are not always easy, but they are certainly working on them. And again, I'll be up here if anybody wants to talk about anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Marmy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to call a finance committee meeting for 2 weeks from today. Wow, I took a lot of notes tonight. There's a lot of information, and I appreciate everyone coming out. I think there's a common theme here that can be definitely addressed, and I know our administration, our safety department, safety forces definitely do care, and they're trying real hard, and I believe that some of these things will be addressed. It's not a quick fix with everything, but I do believe in them, and I believe in their ability, and I appreciate all of you bringing particulars to us, because the other thing that helps us here on council, we don't make the day-to-day decisions on, our police force or anything like that, and what their priorities. We don't know all of them all the time during the day. That doesn't mean we can't put just another bug. Hey, what's been happening down on 4th Street? What's been happening on National Drive? Any progress there? Anything like that? Just keeping it out front, I think it'll be helpful for us to understand and know that also. Okay, so I do appreciate you coming here. Let's see, there's one other thing that I do want to, if you weren't here for the finance committee meeting, I asked for the mayor to come to the next finance committee meeting or to give us an update on the American Rescue Act funds and give us some information on that and kind of where we're at, what kind of priorities are we trying to set. And just some of that discussion will be at our next finance committee meeting. So if anybody, and I know Linda, you had talked about that. One thing that I want to bring up that was not brought up, and I know it's an issue that we're seeing, but a lot of our businesses are struggling right now, and the biggest struggle is they can't get enough help. There's plenty of work available out there, and I would like to see, maybe something where, some of these issues that are happening can also solve other problems. We have businesses that are reducing hours or shutting down completely. Brewskis is shutting down because they can't get enough help to cover both the drive-through and the pizza. And that's sad. I mean, I love Brewskis. My family loves it. And it's going to be a loss for our family. We're hoping that they'll be able to open back up. And things like that are happening in our community. And I don't know what we need to do, but we need to make sure that folks are out there and applying for these positions and wanting to work and wanting to just get better and doing things. Younger folks, we're having, I know that a lot of the businesses are saying that high school and college kids are not applying for jobs like they used to. So I don't know what it is that we can do to assist with that, other than just encouragement, but it's an issue that is real out there. And it is hurting our businesses, which in turn is going to hurt our tax revenue. So we want to make sure that we're encouraging that. And so if anyone has any additional ideas, I know it's something that's definitely near and dear to my heart, because I don't want to see any of these businesses go down, reduce income, or have to reduce hours. I kind of got a kick out of the McDonald's sign that said at McDonald's that said, "Hey, our milkshake machine works. Do you want to?" And that's basically what it says on the sign. I did, but it's the truth. That's exactly what's happening. So And with that, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Marmy. Mr. Rapp.
Thank you. I'll call a service committee meeting for Monday the 16th. Yeah, there's a lot of information tonight and we do appreciate you guys coming forward and bringing it through. Mr. Patterson, I think I heard you say that you do 600 room nights a year.
That's correct.
And that's gone. And that's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. I hope that's not a, I hope that's not a, I hope that's not a permanent loss. Because that is a huge loss to the city of Newark.
Yeah, the ladies they love that house and it's such a charming place.
Yeah, that's an incredible loss. I hope it's not a permanent loss. I hope there's something that can help that. With that, I'll pass.
Mr. Rapp, Mr. Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, just would like to thank everyone for coming tonight who spoke. And even if you didn't speak, just attending, knowing what your government is doing is your right. Would also like to give a shout out to Director Rhodes, the park staff, everyone that has worked on Horns Hill Park. We had a great event up at Horns Hill that Councilman Labutus, Harris, and I attended. And we got to ride the trails, not on bikes. There would have been video of that. We didn't do that. I sure do. I know you all would like to see that. We may do it sometime. You never know. But we are very lucky in our community to have the great parks team that we have. And their work shined that day. The Trek Company gave a very generous donation to the Horns Hill Park. And I know it is already going to be put to good use for our citizens and for people coming into town. It was said the other day that we have people that have come from Utah to ride the trails at Horns Hill Park. So we have quite a gem here in the city of Newark on Horns Hill. I've got a lot of calls recently and had lots of discussion with Director Rhodes regarding the Hudson roundabouts. And I know we're working on that diligently. We've heard the community's calls on that. I think we all have, and I know we're all working on that with Director Rhodes. Brad, I wanted to address one of the things you said was 40 and unders don't know what to do. We have a great organization in town. I know the mayor touts it, Young Leaders Licking County. 21 to 40 is that age range. I myself am vice president of the board, and we do a ton on that. So I would encourage you to go to youngleaders.com, youngleadersoflc.com. And look into that and contact the folks at the chamber who run that for us as well. And with that, Mr. President, I will pass.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. You said 21 to 40?
Yes, sir.
Just missed it.
Just there.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to just say thank you to the residents that came out tonight. Mr. Patterson sent me an email earlier, and I'm glad that you were able to fit it into your schedule to come here tonight. And hopefully you have a share with the safety director. Hopefully there's be some immediate things that can happen there. But I guess there's not going to be enough time to talk about everyone's specific issue. But one of the broader issue in my the work that I've been focusing on has been specifically substance abuse and mental health issues. When you talk about the regulars or the high frequency people that our police officers and our safety force, even our firefighters are dealing with, when they talk about those regulars or high frequency people, most times they're dealing with some types of drug addiction, substance abuse issue, or they're having some mental health concern. So what that tells me, as also putting on my hat as the board president of BHP, is like we need to get some direct services to these people for that they're not trespassing on people's private property. So they're not breaking into people's private property. We've heard a few months ago from a business that was having issues with trespassing and breaking in on personal private property. If someone is committing those crimes, then yes, the police need to arrest them. They need to go through those proper channels of whatever needs to be done. But those frequent people, we need someone who is hired full-time to be able to go out and to identify those high frequency people and to get them into the right avenue of care. I mean, that's what needs to occur. And so I'm very proud to have worked with the Licking County Foundation, the hospital, with the Job and Family Services, and with the Mental Health Recovery Board to raise the money to hire someone, not a volunteer. I mean, volunteers are lovely. We need volunteers. Our grassroots groups, our churches do wonderful work in the community, but this person's job will be to work directly with residents first, saying, hey, we know that you've had someone in your backyard, on your front porch. We need to identify those people so that we can, so that's, well, first of all, so it's not on the police officers' shoulders. Because our police, as we've heard, within the last 3 days, I've heard our police chief speak Saturday at the South North Civic Association event, and then he spoke today at Kiwanis at lunch. And I heard him twice now say that they're very understaffed. We need to hire more police officers. So I appreciate the comments during Finance Committee, hearing about what we're going to do with these American Rescue dollars. Other cities are using American Rescue dollars to hire police officers. So that's an option. I mean, I've read many articles and saw many things that we're hiring police officers using those federal dollars is an option. So I hope that we seriously consider that. But for the specific use of dealing with substance abuse and mental health issues, this position, the neighborhood outreach specialist, and we have it open right now. You can go to BHP's website and click on employment, and they're accepting applications. So, there was a question about, what the person's values and morals and whatnot is. We're accepting applications right now for that position to fill that role. So if anyone is interested or knows someone who would fit that position, because it's going to take a lot of relationship building, that person will have to do, not only working with the homeless individuals, but working with residents and working with law enforcement. That's going to be very critical. But ultimately, I do want to say kudos to our chief. I mean, he has done just on the last few days, speaking and working with the residents at the South North Civic Association picnic. Today, he spoke at Kiwanis, and the message came very clear where he wants to hire more people to do more proactive work. Basically, our officers are going from call to call to call, and they're not able to develop any type of relationship in any of our neighborhoods. He once ran the neighborhood impact unit. And that unit is not what it used to be. And so I'm hoping that we can find the federal dollars to hire some more officers. So that's what our chief is asking for. I've heard him say that twice now in 2 different presentations, that he's wanting to hire more officers. So, but kudos to him. I think we have a wonderful police chief. And if a person is committing a crime, then yes, the police need to be involved. But if these high frequency people, we can get them in the right avenue of care with mental health and substance abuse issues. The last thing I'll say, Mr. President, then I'll yield, is that BHP is going to be opening a urgent care facility right on East Main Street here within the next few months. And so I think that will assist greatly. And even if the police do get involved, they'll be able to have somewhere to take these individuals. So if they won't take them to jail, then we can actually get them into the right services. Excuse me. And so that's going to be a positive thing. So I just hope that we can be open to ideas and be open to working together on this issue, because it's not going to take just one board council member. It's going to take everyone in this room in order to solve this. And so I appreciate everyone that came out tonight to talk about the issue, and we need to keep these conversations going. So thank you so much. That'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Mr. Button.
Thank you, Mr. President. I need to call a personnel committee meeting for 2 weeks, and with that, I'll pass. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Button. Mr. Fennell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I know there's a lot of frustration and a lot of issues that were brought up and a lot of really incredible stories that were shared. And I just really appreciate everybody coming out and engaging in this civic process. This is part of it. This is how change happens, and you are a part of that change, and I just really appreciate that. And I also had a great meeting with Chief McKee, and I just wanted to publicly say that he's doing an incredible job. It's a very difficult way that came about, and I can't imagine the challenges that he has been facing just because of everything that we are facing right now as a city. So I just congratulate him on all of his incredible work.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Mr. Harris.
Thank you. I too want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I hope Mr. Patterson, we get you squared away so we can get you back open. I think that's very important to the city.
Thank you.
And I hope we can get 4th Street National Drive taken care of. A couple months back, I had a meeting with the police chief and the mayor and some others, and we were talking about our police officers, and it's something that we all want to do, but it's also, there's a process in doing it. You gotta get background checks on different people, and they gotta pass certain tests and stuff. So I know it's something that you guys want now and I want now, but sometimes these things take time. So so hopefully
next few months, we can get some officers back on the street and take care of some of these problems and get things going in the right direction. And I too want to thank the Parks Department and everybody that's working up on Orange Hill Park. So if you've not been up there, you need to take a drive up there. It's a really nice park. I think they said a couple Saturdays ago, they counted 6 different license plates from out of state, from 6 different states. And that's pretty cool that people are coming to Newark, Ohio to ride bikes. So down the pass.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Labutus.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, I would like to just thank everyone that came out this evening to share your concerns. Those are things that we don't always know, so bringing those to us gives us some different perspective. And like, as Mr. Marmy said, we can always follow up as well to see what's happening. And also echoing Mr. Barker and Mr. Harris, kudos to the Parks Department, Director Rhodes, on all the great work they're doing at Orange Hill. As many people are coming in to ride those trails, and they've done a phenomenal job. There's also been a lot of volunteer work that's been done as well by citizens and riders that love that sport. And so they put their heart and soul into it. So it's neat to see them have buy-in as well and help make that a fantastic park.
Thank you, Mr. Labutus, and Mr. Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will pass.
Mr. Lang. Mr. Bub, I'd like to thank you for filling in for me last meeting. I appreciate that. And I understand I wasn't excused, but I appreciate you filling in for me. Everett, I'm sorry I missed your last meeting 2 weeks ago, your last meeting. I certainly want to add my thanks to all the work you've done over the years. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And also, I'd like to just add my appreciation to everyone that spoke tonight. We may not be able to solve everything that we talked about this evening, but these are some things that we do need to hear. So we appreciate you coming, and thank you. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Labutus, second by Mr. Harris. All those in favor signify by saying aye.